Okay, everybody, today, section 5.7, Systems of Inequalities. I want you to take a look at this picture. And what we're going to do is extend what we've been working on recently. And we're now going to graph two inequalities at the same time. And we are searching for the overlapping region. And that will contain all of the solutions, as you can see on the screen right here, this darker region. And when we get to do the real world problems, any point that is located in that region will be a solution to that particular situation. So let's go ahead and get into the lesson that's on Alex. It's lesson 5.7. I'm going to bring it up. Here it is. And we're going to go to question number 1. Of course, everyone will have different types of questions. But in this case, so I'm going to make that a little bit bigger for you guys to see. Okay. So in this case here, we have two inequalities. Now, what I'd like everybody to do is take your two inequalities and I want you to graph both lines first, but don't shade anything. So I'm going to give you a sample of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to take my first inequality. I see my y-intercept is -3. Plot that point. I see my slope is 5, which we understand means 5 over 1 is a fraction. So I will go up 5 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. Get my line tool, draw my line. Notice that this inequality symbol has an equal sign, so we're going to keep it as a solid line. Now I want you to go directly to graphing the next line. So this one has a y-intercept of 5 and a slope of -2. Let's remember that means down 2 and right 1 unit. Get your line tool. Create your line, look at your inequality symbol. Mine happens to be a less than, which means this line is dotted, which means it will not contain solutions. And now what we need to do is go to Desmos and put that system into Desmos and see where the shaded region is that overlaps, the intersecting region, and shade it on Alex. So here I am in Desmos. There's my first line, and there's my second. I'm going to double check that, see if that looks appropriate. It does look like my picture. Now I can see where I shade this dark purple region. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to Alex, grab my shading tool, and shade over there, and check my problem. Okay, now I'd like everybody to do their problem. Check it. Try another if you want to. Let's move on to number 2. Let's go back to number 1 for a second. Keep in mind, any point that's in this region is a solution to the system, which means it would work, give you a true statement in both inequalities. Let's do the same thing for number 2. Everybody grab your pencil tool and graph your lines. So I got to start with a y-intercept of -7, slope of down 2, right 1. I graph my line. It is a dotted line. And I'm not going to shade anything yet. Now I'm going to go to my other line, y-intercept of 3. Slope of up 2, right 1. Graph that line. It's a solid line. Now I'm going to go to Desmos and graph this and see where the shaded solution is. So let me turn these off. I've already got these programmed in. There's one line, there's the other. Now I want to make sure and verify that that picture looks good. Yeah, it looks like the same thing I've got drawn. So over here, the darkened region, that's my solution area. There it is. Any point that lies in that region on the solid line would also be included as a solution. The dotted line is not. Let's check it. All right, we're in good shape there. Let's go on to question number 3. This is the same problem, except your two inequalities will be given to you in standard form. So you're going to have to take the time to solve these as we have practiced. Now I've already done that, so I'm going to go ahead and graph my lines. My first line, you won't see it on the screen, but I've solved it. It has a y-intercept of -2 and a slope of 3/4. So I'm going to graph this. And I look at this inequality, it's a solid line. Now I'm going to graph my other line. Once again, you won't see my solution, but I've already figured this out off screen. My y-intercept's -1 and my slope is -4/7. So I got to go down 4, right 7. I'm going to get my line tool, create my line. It needs to be a dotted line, which means it will not contain solutions. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Desmos and see if I graphed everything correctly and then shade the region. So let's turn on the correct. See, these are the original problems here. All right, now I want to look at that compared to my graph I made. Yeah, that looks good. So I can see my darkened region is over here on the right-hand side. So I'm going to grab the shading tool, I'm going to shade over there. And then look what else we have to do. It says you need to give the coordinates of a point that's in the solution set region anywhere out here. It could be anything. How about I just do this 8, 0? Let's try that. I'm going to type it in here. 8, 0. Now I'm going to check. And that should work. And it does. So any point, now caution, if you choose a point that's on the dotted line, it's not going to be a solution. Only in the shaded region or on a solid line. So once again, that 0.80, if I substituted it back into each inequality, it would produce a true solution. All right, let's go on to the last question. It's going to be a word problem. So you know what I always suggest? Look at the last sentence. It's probably going to tell you what you need to know. It says shade the region corresponding to all values of x and y that satisfies these requirements. Back up one more sentence. Mine says let x denote the amount of money in dollars donated to the City Youth Fund, and y will denote the amount of money in dollars donated to the Educational Growth Foundation. We're going to have two inequalities. We're going to need to graph those and write down some information for this. Let's go ahead and read it. So Charlie will donate to $500 to charity. Right there, that's an inequality. I'm going to go over to Desmos, and I'm going to turn this on. Okay, and right there it is. Now, you'll notice my whole screen is darkened. Let's go back to the ALEKS program. Look at the X and Y axes. Look at this. See how big these numbers are? We need to adjust our screen in Desmos. We need to be out in the hundreds. So we're getting closer. There we go. Now we can start to see this, right? So just change your magnification level. And there's one of my lines. Now, what you would want to do is you would want to change that into slope-intercept form to graph it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And when I do so, my y-intercept is at 500. Which I can't see it on here, but I'm going to go ahead and type that in here. That's 0, 500. Okay, there it is. My slope is down 1, right 1. Okay, now there's a lot of ways we could go about this. You could check Desmos to see if you get some good points to graph. Like there's one. Here's another one, 500, 0. I think I'm just going to use that. I'm going to put 500, 0 in here. Okay, now I can go ahead and graph this. And it's a solid line. I'm going to keep it like that. Now I got to come up with my other inequality. So the next sentence says Charlie would like the amount donated to the educational foundation, which is Y, to be at least, that means greater than or equal to, twice the amount donated to the city youth fund. So that's 2x. I'm going to go ahead and go back. Here's my inequality for that. See that one right there, everybody? That's the transfer. That's the translation of that sentence from English into math. I'm wondering if I can find a couple good points to graph. So I can see one there. That does not look good. That looks good. So 0, 0 is definitely on my graph. Something I'm going to graph. So I'm going to go ahead and put a point right here at 0, 0. Now you got to think about this. The equation, mine's 2x. That means my slope is 2. So if I would go up 2 and right 1, I'd be at the point 1, 2. So I'm just going to enter that as a point. So you got to be a little bit ingenious with this. Okay, now does that look like my picture? It sure does. Look at my solution region. See, it's over here. That's why I'm going to shade. Everybody go ahead and find their own. And it looks like that's all we have to do is just shade in this. And it says my answer is incorrect. I wonder if my points are no good. So let's go back and erase this line I drew here. And I'm wondering if that point right here, those 2 points are no good. So let's go ahead and see if we can get rid of those. There we go. Okay, so let's do this again. So this point 2x, there is another point up here. It's pretty good. But any multiple of 2 over 1 will work. So if I went up 200 and over 100, that'd be the same thing. Let's try that. So let's plot a point. I'm wondering if that thing is still there. Let me get rid of it. There we go. I'm going to plot the point 100, 200. The other point might have been way too close. All right. Now let's look at that. That's looking much better. Okay. Okay, so one thing we have to adjust here is that this probably needs to be a dotted line because the words up to 500 may not mean you include 500. Okay. Okay. So one last thing here we got to talk about with this. The reason why this keeps coming up is incorrect. Look at the correct answer. We need to block off this part of the y-axis. So we will talk about how you do that. You basically need to put another inequality in there. So we will discuss that in class.